What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. NFL Week 10. I am very upset, especially with the Monday Night Football game. My lock pick was the Buffalo Bills to defeat the Denver Broncos, and that completely went the other way. And I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills, and I'm starting to realize, man, like, what's wrong with Josh Allen? And a lot of people are blaming Josh Allen for everything, all the miscues. But let's not forget there were many drops by the receivers. Stephon Diggs had a drop. One of the tight ends had a drop. You know, and it's just, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that doesn't help Josh Allen at all. Now, I will say there are some plays where Josh Allen just throws it up where it's just like, man, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of like Brett Favre. Just heave it up there and pray that your receiver comes up with it, you know, and there were some bad plays. But overall, looking at Josh Allen, I'm thinking, man, he had a touchdown and 2 picks this game. They're just not enough. You're supposed to win on Monday Night Football at home, and just the way they played. The first play, James Cook literally fumbles the ball the very first play. So Denver recovered it. At that moment, I'm thinking, oh, shoot, this is not going to go well. Just the whole flow, the momentum of the whole game from the first snap, that first fumble. I had a gut feeling that, hey, this isn't Buffalo's time right now. They're losing. They're 5-5 right now. They're on the outside looking in the playoffs. Is the Madden curse legit? Is it for real? You know, we look at Josh Allen and realize, damn, dude, like, he's just not there right now. I don't know what it is, the flow. Is it the head coach? They fired their offensive coordinator, but at the same time, it's just like, what's the end goal for Buffalo? Obviously a Super Bowl, but you can't even make the playoffs yet. Like, it's very disappointing. It sucks. But homage to the Denver Broncos, homage to Russell Wilson to step it up, 193 yards and 2 tutties. Will Lutz hit the game-winning field goal, 36 yards to ice it in Buffalo to win. And I'm looking at Buffalo and thinking, man, like, they're going to have a tough end of their second half of their season. It's just, that's the part of it. But even though Allen puts up great fantasy football numbers, but to win big games. This was a game where you guys should have won, where Denver was on their heels. Right now, Denver's kind of battling back to that 500 spot. Russell Wilson, and I still think Russell isn't the same Russ back in Seattle. I still think the hunger is gone, but I'm looking at Buffalo and realizing, man, their secondary suspect, that late flag at the end of the game, it's just everything added up for Buffalo, from the first turnover fumble to Josh Allen's interception to the receiver dropping it to lead to another interception. Really should have been on the receiver's fault, though. You know, the receiver's got to come up with these catches. You're getting paid millions of dollars to catch a football. You know, really shouldn't be rocket science here. You know you're going to get hit sometimes running across the middle. Take the hit, but take the catch. Like, don't put it on your quarterback. That hurts your quarterback. So I think overall, what a win by Denver. I don't think anybody saw this coming, including myself, but huge win on Monday Night Football for the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson against all odds. They were 7-point underdogs. Like, that's crazy to me. So shout out to Denver Broncos and head coach Sean Payton. What a time right now. And Buffalo's on the outside looking in. And then we got my Indianapolis Colts beating the New England Patriots 10-6. It was really ugly. That's why I went with the under as well. I went Colts under, and that hit. You know, Jonathan Taylor, 23 carries, 69 yards and a tutty. Shout out to JT. He's back. My thing is the Colts just don't have a quarterback. I mean, Minshew, really? 194 yards and a pick. Every game, Minshew throws a pick. And it's one of them where it's just like, why? Why are you throwing this ball? I'm like, this does not make sense, Minshew. He's a backup quarterback. We need our starting quarterback back and Anthony Richardson eventually. Not till next year. But, you know, you're playing the sorry Patriots. You know, Bill Belichick, he's past his prime coaching. You know, he's got a quarterback in Mac Jones, where I don't even know how he's got a starting quarterback job in the NFL. 170 yards and a pick. It's like he doesn't really care anymore. Like, you could see it in his body language. It's like, Mac Jones, really, dude? Like, he's over here just going through the motions, looking like he's struggling out there. Like, he should be a third-string quarterback, if not on the practice squad, dude. Like, seriously, if Jimmy G is a second stringer, this dude should be a second or third stringer straight up. But shout out to my Indianapolis Colts in Germany. Wiped out the Nazis. Take off, Indianapolis Colts. Let's go! And then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Tennessee Titans. I picked the Titans in this matchup. I thought Will Levis was just going to ball out and go crazy here, but he didn't. 199 yards and a pick. He's still a rookie. I still think he is the future in Tennessee. And Derrick Henry, 24 yards on 11 carries. That's not Derrick Henry like. You know, Derrick Henry, one of the highest paid running backs, well-deserved. But this year, for fantasy terms, definitely Derrick Henry was not the move. Like, if you drafted Derrick Henry top 4 rounds, That's a bad pick. Now, Derrick Henry in the 8th and 9th round, I get now, but panning out, looking at his stats from this year to last year, they're day and night different. I scooped him up last year, and he was balling every single week. This year, there's inconsistent games. That's not like Derrick Henry and Tennessee Titans, but give it up to the Bucks. Mike Evans, 143 yards receiving in a tutty, just a walking lick on fantasy. You got to draft Mike Evans. If you don't draft Mike Evans in the first 4 rounds, you're silly, dude. Mike Evans is a top 5 receiver for fantasy terms. Like, he's going to put up these big numbers. He's going to score touchdowns in the red zone. He's going to jump over the small cornerbacks. That's what Mike Evans does. And then Baker, 2 tutties and a pick, 278 yards passing, and it was all Tampa here, 20-6. This was a big win by Tampa Bay. They're kind of on a losing streak on the downwards right now, but the under hit 39.5, even though I said the over. But the Tennessee it sucks. Will Levis just was not ready. It was all Bucks, and Mike Evans was the difference maker. Shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then we got the Houston Texans beating the Cincinnati Bengals. This by far was the biggest upset. I thought personally was just like, wow. The Houston Texans went into Cincinnati and ran right through them, 30-27. C.J. Stroud, the rookie, 356 yards passing with a tutty and a pick. Devin Singletary, 150 yards rushing and a tutty. Noah Brown, 7 receptions, 172 yards receiving for Houston. Houston just snapped out. And then Matt Amendola, 38-yard game-winning field goal to ice it in Cincinnati. And I'm looking at the Bengals and realizing they kind of have an iffy defense as well. It's not a Super Bowl team right now. They're just not. You know, Joe Burrow, 347 yards, 2 tutties and 2 picks. Really some bad throws as well. We're starting to see some of these quarterbacks take a lot of bad chances here. Bad gambles where it's just like, this is a lose-lose situation. You're throwing in double coverage here. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And then Jamar Chase, 124 yards receiving in a tutty. But it was all Houston Texans here. It was all C.J. Stroud, man. I'm telling you right now, C.J. Stroud is playing like the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I hear a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans say, oh, no, it's Dak Prescott. You know, Dak Prescott, please stop it here. You know, every year it happens. It ends the same way with the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott's going to throw a pick in the playoffs and lose the game, or he's going to run out the clock like they did last year against San Francisco at home. They had no more time left. Just give the ball to the referee. You could have had a couple more seconds left. But it's just the small things that add up for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. That's why I don't put Dak Prescott in the top quarterbacks. He's not in the conversation. He shouldn't be, even though he bought out against the trash Giants, but it still doesn't add up. It really doesn't. But I'm looking at the Texans and C.J. Stroud. He's the best quarterback right now, pound for pound, the way he's playing. Every single game he's putting up big numbers, and Houston Texans are winning games right now. It's between Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars in that division, because I'm telling you, C.J. Stroud looking like he should have been the first overall pick, not the second. So shout out to C.J. Stroud, shout out to the Houston Texans. I did not see this coming. I went Bengals. I was way off on this, but shout out to the Houston Texans getting the upset in Cincinnati. Down, they were 6.5-point underdogs, man. What a time, man. Shout out to the Houston Texans. And then we got the Green Bay Packers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This should have been my lock pick. I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers. They won 23-19. This was a close game. Najee Harris got a touchdown. Jalen Warren, 101 yards rushing and a touchdown. Both are great for fantasy. I got Najee Harris. He's starting to pick up more right now. But if you got Jalen Warren as well, that's a great solid pickup. It seems like Warren's getting a little bit more love and more touches than Najee Harris. But right now, Harris is starting to adapt into his old self. Hey, he's going to truck people. He's going to make people miss. He's going to break off in the open. He's going to score touchdowns in the red zone. And that's what he's been doing lately. Shout out to T.J. Watt getting his 88th sack of his career. Man, shout out to T.J. Watt, man. That's the difference there. You know, the defense and T.J. Watt for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're putting pressure on the quarterback every single play, dude. And that's why I love T.J. Watt. That's why I think he's up there, top defenders in the league right now. It's because of that. Every play is the last play for him. Every play is 100% full effort. There's no complaining or nonchalant, I'm hurt, I can't play. No, T.J. Watt is a warrior. He's the heart of a champion, and he puts it out on the line every single game. And then you got Jordan Love, 289 yards passing with 2 tutties and 2 picks. Jalen Reed, 84 yards receiving and a touchdown for Green Bay. But overall, it's just the Pittsburgh Steelers. They play nice, man, at home, and they were favored by 3.5, and it hit. You love it when it barely hits, right? They only won by 4. It was a 3.5. It cashed in. Shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers getting another close win. Man, I'm telling you, shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then we got the Cleveland Browns upsetting the Baltimore Ravens. I told you guys to go Cleveland. This was another upset pick of the weekend, and I got that one right. I was way off on the Jacksonville game. At least I got the Browns game right. And really, Watson came back, battled back, 213 yards passing, a touchdown, and a pick. Jerome Ford, 107 yards rushing. Amari Cooper, 98 yards receiving. And they just battled back and never gave up. I mean, at one point, it was 9-24. That is crazy, and it looked like the Ravens were going to run away with it. And I think the odds at that time were like plus 340 live odds. And I think that's the way to go. In this world right now where sports betting is becoming so big, I think the live betting is actually better. I really do. I think the live betting, for example, live betting on the Raiders when they were down this weekend, that would have been a huge cash out if you bet on the Raiders. But shout out to the Browns, the Ravens, Lamar doing his own thing like every single game. 223 yards passing, a touchdown. He did have 2 picks, which could be corrected, obviously. But for Lamar, everything's always on Lamar. I mean, all the pressure, everything. Lamar, this is how you're going to play. If you're going to play shitty, we're going to play shitty. If you're going to play good, we're typically going to play good. But, we saw OBJ get a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 73 yards receiving. But the Ravens, this was their game to win. They gave this game away. That's what happened. Just like they gave the game away to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens and realizing there were some times, I think last month, where people were like, oh, the Ravens are the number 1 team in the NFL. And I said, no, there's a lot of holes in the Ravens right now. Defense and offensively right now. And I would not, even top 10, I might consider that, but they're giving away games. They should have beat the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, and they should have beat the Cleveland Browns this game. Giving away games later on in the season typically comes around and bites you in the butt. So I think for John Harbaugh, this is back to the X's and O's here. 2 games that you let slip in the regular season, that's a no-go. I'm telling you right now, shout out to the Cleveland Browns with a huge upset victory, man, in Baltimore. What a time to be alive. And then we got the San Francisco 49ers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was way off. I picked Jacksonville with the upset. Totally way off on this one. They got killed 34-3. Brock Purdy finally balled out. A couple games where he was playing bad, looked human. This game he looked like, wow, okay, he should have been the first round pick or first over, somewhere top 10 pick. But Brock Purdy, 296 yards passing with 3 tutties. Christian McCaffrey had 95 yards rushing and no touchdown. He had 17 consecutive games with a touchdown. I don't understand why the coach didn't give him the ball at the end of the game. I understand you're way up, but this is for the record, dude. Like, he tied the record. This is a lone record for Christian McCaffrey. This stuff might not ever happen again, dude. 17 consecutive games with a touchdown. That is insane. Unheard of, unhuman. Shout out to Christian McCaffrey. It sucks that he didn't get the touchdown this game, but really, I blame the coaches. Like, you put him in at the end of the game. I know you're blowing him out, but we're playing for the record here. 17 games in a row, consecutive with the touchdown. That's unheard of, dude. George Kittle, 116 yards receiving in a tutty. It was all San Francisco here. And look, for Jacksonville, this is, back to the X's and O's and back to reality. That's what it is, dude. You guys got blown out. Christian Kirk, over 100 yards receiving on my fantasy squad, snapped off. Trevor Lawrence threw for 2 picks. Just didn't look good. San Francisco's on another level. When they played their A game. Now, we've seen San Francisco play terrible against Minnesota. Some other games as well. But I'm looking at Brock Purdy and the 49ers. If they're playing like this every single week, they definitely can make a Super Bowl run this year with McCaffrey, with Debo, with Kittle. They got so many weapons offensively and defensively with Warner. It's just off the top. San Francisco's a top 3 team in the NFL right now, period. Shout out to the San Francisco 49ers. And then we got the Minnesota Vikings beating the New Orleans Saints. I picked this win. Shout out to the Minnesota Vikings. Shout out to Josh Dobbs, dude. Josh Dobbs has been snapping off. He's been on everyone's fantasy right now. A month ago, nobody really heard of Josh Dobbs that much. Oh, yeah, he's in Arizona. He's an okay quarterback. But right now, he's really taken over in Minnesota saying, hey, this is my team now. I have talent around me. I have Jordan Addison. I have TJ Hawkinson, who had a touchdown, 134 yards receiving. Dude, like, I'm telling you right now, Minnesota's a scary team, and they're on a roll right now. And it starts with Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs is just looking nice, looking like a veteran out there, looking like he's been in the league for 15 years, just throwing dimes here in the pocket, really calm, can scramble, can do a lot of different things, man. Shout out to the Minnesota Vikings. They got the dub. Derek Carr got hurt. Jameis Winston came in, obviously threw for 2 picks. Winston's trash. He's trash. Chris Olave, 94 yards receiving and a touchdown, but it just wasn't enough. And it was all Minnesota here. And like I said, Josh Dobbs was the difference here. And I think if they continue to play like this, Minnesota, coming from the first month of the season was terrible to this, and then Justin Jefferson eventually should be back, I would say, in a couple weeks, right? I mean, I'm praying that he comes back for Minnesota's sake, because if Justin Jefferson doesn't come back towards playoff time, they're gonna lose. We know that. But if Justin Jefferson is back with Addison, Hockenson, dude, they can make a little run here. So let's not give up on the Minnesota Vikings. Shout out to the Minnesota Vikings and Josh Dobbs getting a huge win. Take off! And then we got the Arizona Cardinals upsetting the Atlanta Falcons. I picked Arizona. Why? Because Kyler Murray's coming back. He was the difference, man. He really was. 249 yards passing. He did have a pick. Trey McBride, he went for 131 yards receiving for Arizona. Never heard of Trey before, but he snapped off. He really did. And Kyler Murray, like I said, he looked good. He really didn't look like the knee was bothering him. He just ran really fast. He just was just on his P's and Q's the whole game. That's why they won this game, man. Shout out to the Arizona Cardinals getting a huge win. Taylor Heineke got hurt. He had a touchdown. Desmond Ridder had one rushing touchdown, came in after Heineke got hurt. Robinson, 95 yards rushing and a touchdown, the rookie out of Texas. I'm looking at Atlanta. They're still a young team. They got a lot of maturing to do, a lot on offense and defensive wise. But Arizona, I picked them strictly because of Kyler Murray's back. Kyler Murray is a difference maker, and I think Arizona should keep Kyler Murray at quarterback and build around him. Bring in better receivers. Bring in better offensive linemen. Bring in better defense for Arizona and Kyler Murray. And I'm telling you, the future is bright in Arizona, and Kyler Murray take off, man. After missing 11 months, I'd love to see it. And then we got the Detroit Lions beating the LA Chargers. I picked the Chargers in this matchup at home. It made sense to me. This was a nail-biter. 41-38. What a time, man. Justin Herbert, 323 yards passing with 4 tutties and 1 pick. Snapped off. Then you had Jared Goff go for 333 yards passing and 2 tutties. St. Brown, 156 yards receiving and a touchdown. Then you got David Montgomery, 116 yards rushing and a tutty. The lines were going off. And then you had Riley Patterson hit the game-winning 41-yard field goal as time expired to ice it. And shout out to the Lions, man. They are battle-tested. The Lions are a playoff team. I said that coming into week 1. I said the Detroit Lions are a dark horse. They will definitely make the playoffs this year. And, shout out to Austin Eckler. He balled out a touchdown. And shout out to my receiver, Keenan Allen, who I picked up in the 5th round, which is obviously a top 3 receiver in fantasy, dude. He had 175 yards receiving and 2 tutties. Went for like 38 points as a receiver. That's insane, dude. And that wasn't even his biggest week. His biggest week, he went for like 44, like week 3. It was crazy. So shout out to Keenan Allen. Even though they came up short, we saw glimpses of the Chargers saying, hey, they will be battle-tested. Justin Herbert is a good quarterback. He's got weapons around him. He's got Eckler, Allen. There's so much around him, but the Lions were just a better team. And I think the Detroit Lions coming into this year's playoff, I really hope they match up with the Dallas Cowboys. How great would that be? Dallas Cowboys versus the Detroit Lions, man. Dallas just making up another excuse of why they're going to lose. And that's what's going to happen to them, dude. I can't wait. Man, this is going to happen. I just manifest this, dude. The Dallas Cowboys are prima donnas. Take off Detroit Lions, get the huge win. Let's go. And then we got that, like I said, the New York Giants, they're trash. Playing the Cowboys, and I'm looking at the Cowboys. Yeah, they won 49-7. Yeah, Dak Prescott had 404 yards passing and 4 tutties. He did have a pick. Brandon Cook snapped off 173 yards receiving and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb had a touchdown. But the Cowboys, like I said, if they match up with the Detroit Lions in the playoffs, they're doomed, dude. They really are. I'm looking at the Cowboys and realizing, yeah, they got CeeDee Lamb. That's about it, though. Who else do they have on offense where you're just like, okay, this guy's a game changer? I mean, Tony Pollard, he's an okay. Brandon Cooks is getting older. Like, come on. Like, Dak Prescott, really? He's going to be your guy still after all these years in Dallas. After all the heartbreaks in the playoffs, the Dallas Cowboys still trust him. Dude, I can't believe it, man. And that's faith. That is true faith, just trusting that, when things don't go your way and they're continuing to go wrong year in and year out, it's got to be something pointing to you, dude. Like, it's crazy. Like, Dak Prescott, I'm sorry. He's just a sorry quarterback. That's what he is. And the Cowboys, man, they're going to choke. They are going to choke towards the end of the season. I can't wait to see that iconic moment. And then we got the Seattle Seahawks beating the Washington Commanders. I picked Seattle in this matchup. Geno Smith, 369 yards passing with 2 tutties. Kenneth Walker had that deep receiving touchdown. It was really a flat, and he took it all the way. He's on my fantasy squad, went for 24 in the dub, won in both fantasy leagues. It's great. It's great when you're winning in fantasy football. It makes football so much fun to watch. It really does. Even though Sam Howell, he had a great game, 312 yards passing with 3 tutties. Brian Robinson Jr. had 119 receiving yards and a touchdown, snapped off fantasy-wise. But looking at Seattle, man, and Geno Smith, they are a nice team. Well-rounded. They're a great run team with Kenneth Walker. I'm telling you, Seattle's got a bright future ahead of them. I can't wait to see what happens, and I do think Seattle's definitely going to make the playoffs. It's just how far they're going to run is the question, but a huge win for the Seattle Seahawks, man. What a time. That's amazing. And then we got the New York Jets versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I picked the Raiders in this matchup. This was the game I was telling you to lie bet on. You know, the Raiders were down. They came back and won the game. O'Connell, 153 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Josh Jacobs, 116 yards rushing. Devontae Adams, 86 yards receiving. They're kind of finally getting Devontae Adams back in rhythm. That's the thing. If I'm O'Connell, I'm saying, look, get Devontae Adams the ball and Josh Jacobs. Those are your 2 best guys on offense, and we got to get these guys touches at least. You know, Josh Jacobs, 20-plus touches a game, and we got to get Devontae Adams 10-plus receptions a game. That's what you got to do. If you want to win some of these big games, that's what you got to do. Zach Wilson, 263 yards passing and a pick. Just wasn't good enough. And they came up short yet again. It's just, that's it, man. You know, shout out to the Las Vegas Raiders. I love when I hit the bets, man. Take off, Raiders. Take off, Josh Jacobs, man. What a freaking time. And like I said, the Monday Night Football game, so disappointing. The Bills came up short. They're probably the most surprising team to me this year is the Buffalo Bills. How crappy they've been playing, how Josh Allen has not been looking good. I'm expecting the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen right now, coming into next week, saying, hey, let's look in the mirror. We need to really take off here. We need to turn this season around. We need to win 6 games straight right now and go into the playoffs and go all the way. That's what they need to do. So, you know, shout out to the freaking, man, I can't believe it. The Denver Broncos getting the huge win. But my biggest pick all weekend was definitely Arizona beating the Atlanta Falcons. That was an upset pick. And then the Browns beating the Ravens. Another back-to-back parlay upset pick that hit. You know, obviously my San Francisco hit was way off. You know, but overall, what a time, man. Shout out to my Indianapolis Colts. Shout out to the Cleveland Browns, baby. It's the NFL. It's the Clown with Cam show. Let's go!